Gelassenheit has an ambiguity between the word Lassen in German has an ambiguity between um, letting and making, letting someone do something, making someone do something. Lassen, um, and when compared to the thinking of willing in Nietzsche, this is gives us an opportunity to think Dasein, because willing makes us think fundamentally of an agent, which is attacking something or striving for something, which then can only come into this rest from this through the various ecstatic states, which just speaks of the relinquishment of the duty, of the requirement of this drudgery, as it were, as it becomes of constantly willing, of constantly trying to come to that which is necessary, to bring that which is necessary to be. Nietzsche constantly then brings us into these Dionysian concepts, into the to the Rausch, into the letting oneself be carried away by, as in a state of being lit, or being soused, or more than just a buzz, but being carried away by letting one's flesh be intoxicated. This has a very distinctive tonality in Nietzsche. It's, of course, we can do what in a way we're forbidden to do by Heidegger, and make all kinds of mere comparisons, and therefore lose ourselves in saying this is like that, and it does remind of certain Eastern teachings, of Zen, of the Tao, of other Eastern teachings. We could compare that. Heidegger often tries to bring us into the mind of the distinctive peculiarity of that which is unrepeatable, and that which is unrepeatable therefore can also be simply the decision, as it were, of a particular ego, so far as we're thinking of Heidegger in terms of the Cartesian ego, which I take to be, if we speak of the cognito, don't we speak at the same time of ego? Because there's no cognition in Descartes' sense except with the ego, and then it's contrasted with the sum or sum, with being. And it's in this way that we get to some other difficulties. Here, the first thing I'm trying to give expression to is the Gelassenheit, which I think is, to me, I think the nicest way to say it, as it were, is releasement. We can say letting be also, which brings out another tonality. I think now, as I'm speaking of, there's the section that which in the logical investigations, which Heidegger was most taken with, has something in it where Husserl is describing somebody saying, "Look at the bird soar," or "There, the hawk has taken wing," or something along those lines, and he's bringing out the just a different way of describing it, in the sense of sort of writerly uh, variegations and different uh, uh, belletries, beautiful letters, beautiful ways of speech, and but we don't have to think of it in that terms, but just that we can call things in different ways, and it makes them appear sometimes utterly different if you get the words just right. Um, this is often the thing with the best writers is one says of them, they use the same words as all of us do, but somehow they do it differently. People who are good with Spanish say that of Claire Liz Bechter, I've noticed in recent years. Um, I don't see, there's also, it has the tonality of something Eastern, but if we're not forbidden to treat it as a comparison, it does remind of awakening, but I don't feel that really works in connection if we're comparing it to Nietzsche and saying, which I don't see how we can avoid doing, because we're saying here we have the end of metaphysics, and Nietzsche is, as it were, the quintessential representative of that. And Nietzsche has this business of the will, and the will to will, which is tied to Hartmann and the first thinking of the unconscious, the philosophy of the unconscious. And this whole conception of the unconscious in the Jungian and Freudian sense, where it refers in a way to causality, because Freud himself points to the text in the Politeia or the Republic, where Plato's Socrates speaks of the what's in the dark background of the mind of the Athenians, and what would they do if they were not constrained by custom and so on. What are their real motives? And this is, in a way, one meaning of existentialism, is so far as we link Nietzsche and Dostoevsky, what the existentialism often means there is the dark hidden motives for our actions, and often with the sense of things like in straightforward Freudianism, something like an Oedipal complex, or wanting to kill the father, or whatever it may be, the dark hidden motives. I think that's plays a large role in the, as it were, the pre-technical philosophical meaning of existentialism. The will. So, are we overcoming? Are we transcending, becoming transalpine, going beyond the Alps, outside of Rome? Are we going beyond the will to releasement, where now there's a flow within itself? Now there's something. It's not that you get tired of willing